Hi, I'm Nikki Rayo. I'm the Business Development Manager here at Clout9.
And I'm Hannah, the Social Media Director.
Well, I'm excited to be here today because what we're going to be talking a little bit about is, when you think of social media marketing and kind of when working with social media, there's the personal side and then there's the professional business side of things. And kind of what we do on the business side of social media, we kind of have to debunk some of those common trends, common practices, and really the things that a lot of people would probably assume to be effective and what would work well on social media, and what we've learned to be actually the more effective and more targeted approach for a business account.
Yeah, it's kind of like MythBusters. Remember that show?
I do.
Ever watched it? Yeah, it's like that, but without all the science experiments and explosions and like craziness.
Velocity,
yeah,
science
so like
terms.
like that, but not. but anyway, so definitely some misconceptions, and I think one of the maybe more obvious one is like what industries should be on social media
Absolutely.
and what shouldn't be. And we've worked with a lot of industries that like we even surprise ourselves with how well they perform on social.
It's so true. Because that's, I think from my perspective and kind of my role at Clout9 has been really interesting to see, when people reach out and they want to tackle social media and the first thing they say is, well, I'm in commercial insurance, or I sell a very specific item and it's more B2B. I just don't think that's geared for social media, or my audience is on social media. And that's really what we've come to learn, is that this is actually a really effective tool if you just use it properly.
Yeah. Pretty much all of the dental, medical, hospital, nursing homes, those have all been huge successes. I think that's like a big part of our clientele are those businesses that fall into those categories. And I don't know, you would think medical would be boring, but it's not. And I think it's just because there's so much like that people are able to learn, it's almost like a lot of times you can answer those questions that people probably had that they didn't even know they had, or like maybe they Google too often and find the wrong answer, but you can be a really good resource for, patients or just a general public to learn about.
Well, absolutely. And I think that, and it kind of goes back to even to what, social media was created for from the beginning. And that there is a personal element, as we all have our own individual Facebook pages, and you have to kind of treat it a little similarly when you approach it from a business account, just in the way of, this is a human space. We need to be creating content for humans. We need to be bridging kind of what they were there originally to do.
Yeah.
And really that's what the algorithms ask for. They ask you to respect the space and understand what it's there to be used for.
Totally.
So why not for your business build trust from a human side of things to ultimately do business with you? I think that's just like the kind of the impasse, and the really effective way to do it is kind of bringing it back to its roots, always approaching your content from a human, relatable space, and then you can educate them on why you're the best at what you do, the best in your industry, and why they should come to you versus your competitor. And that's kind of, I've seen that's why we do so well in really any industry. There's really no industry we can't make this work for in this system, because we always attribute it to the fundamental rules of social media, that it's humans interacting with humans, not sell.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, especially if it's the situations where in a medical scenario, I mean, going from one doctor to another doctor, you're going to ultimately get the same result. It's going to be like what type of relationship you have with that person is as to why, it's like when you write a review, you're going to say, they had the best team. They were so amazing. They made me treated me like family.
It's true.
Like, you're not really talking about unless they did some sort of botch job, but like you're not talking about
keep those reviews to yourself. No, but that's so true. It's today's word of mouth.
Right.
Truly.
It's really more about what type of connections are you making with them, and that's what's going to make the difference on social. So if you're willing to show who you are, show that connection you have with your patients, then that's what's going to help sell your brand on social.
Right. And it's honestly and I think as consumers, I want to do business with someone I feel like I already know, that again, you've built that trust with. So if I'm interacting with you on social media and I'm getting kind of that back and forth, that conversation, and I feel like I know them, and then I walk into that office feeling so comfortable, and it makes me want to look at more services that they have. It's almost upselling itself. And I think the mindset needs to be subconsciously you're selling, but what you actually put out needs to be not sales heavy, and really just in the terminology you use almost.
Yeah, because business owners want to sell, and
it's
so
true.
So they may initially start their social media journey with like selling, but instead it should be more about the storytelling, the education, the awareness.
I think that's what it is. It's the educating. It's selling, and what you should be doing is educating. You will in tune sell your service, sell your brand. You're kind of endorsing that kind of partnership and moving forward with choosing them as your provider or seller by educating them, showing them that you are the leader and the expert at what you do.
Yeah.
You're selling it already.
Right. And sometimes it's hard to make that connection between, like, especially for us that are representing clients, they're like, but we need ROI, but we need to see this, and this. And that's where it's helpful to like always put a link in your post, always send them back to somewhere where they can continue. You want to create more touch points in all of your posts to where they're not just scrolling, liking, and keep going, right?
Absolutely.
Instead, they're wanting to learn more. There's something for them to click on. They're going over to your website, whatever. And so that's going to help your client or that business owner understand and see the ROI side of it, but you're doing your job with capturing them in the feed, creating something really visually attractive, whether it's telling a really good story or educating them or something that's going to really tug at the heartstrings. And then, you're stopping them in their tracks to read that. That'll hopefully want them to keep learning more about
It's so true because, I think like I was using the word like humans, interacting with humans and, making it a human content-based kind of system. But it's just really being relatable, having content that you can relate to and having stories that you relate to.
And when you're talking about the engagement, I think it talks a lot about reviews and some misconceptions there about how oftentimes reviews are great and they're like easy to respond to when they're positive, when someone is recommending your business and saying good things. But as soon as it turns negative, which we all have to deal with those situations.
Sure.
So as a business, it's easy to just hide and pretend like, oh, I didn't see it. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to deal with it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, but definitely it's important to just deal with it. Just
huge misconception
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yes.
And deal with it, because we've seen very like prime examples of how responding can turn into a positive situation. With some of our clients before, if the review is negative, we've responded, we've gathered the information. So instead of us just responding, we send it over to the client, learn a little bit more about what's behind this, what happened in the situation, how can we respond that really will help the user feel like they're heard, right?
It's true.
And then as soon as they respond, oftentimes they may take it down, because
it's been diffused.
Because all they wanted was someone to hear them. All they wanted was
heard.
Yeah, and they think that like, oh, I can just say whatever I want and no one's going to say anything back.
I want to be heard. That's like amen. And
right.
That's literally the only way, I think, from whether you're interacting in person, in really any situation.
Yeah.
I think everyone just wants to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think approaching it again from making it that human element, if you're able to diffuse it but you're addressing the issue and you're making them feel heard and that their problem does matter, you've already won the battle. It's a lot more of, again, you have access to that brand. They're taking the time to listen to me, they hear me, and that doesn't mean you cave. I mean, there's the customer's always right, and to a point, right? There's where's that boundary? What is that kind of that impasse?
Yeah.
And I think that if you take the time to acknowledge it, diffuse it, instead of just immediately like, oh, how do I remove this? I need to remove it. It's negative. Or I need to block. That's negative.
Right.
There are definitely even guidelines and barriers within there. Where,
and there are times and
where
places.
You do. It's just, it's not, it's combative and it's just simply there's no way to drive it home. So you kind of need to find the balance there. But I think always approach it first from how can I make them feel heard? How can I take the time to be conscientious? And
try to take it off of social. If that's going to make it better for you to handle the situation, at least respond and say that we will be in contact with you as soon as possible.
Ask them for additional contact information. I would love to reach out to you, so we can talk about this a little bit further, and I can, hopefully solve the problem that you'd originally,
And sometimes in that verbal communication, they can end up saying like, I'm sorry, I'll take it down. And that's happened before with our clients too. They go back and remove the review that they had originally written. So
because a lot of them are genuine concerns or genuine frustrations, and it's because we all do it out of passion, or anytime there is something, they're like, ooh, this is really frustrating, I need to do it right now. And we have, these supercomputers that tether us to anything and everything at any time.
Right.
So you have access to do that. And I think that that's a huge part of it. And if it is, a vicious keyboard warrior who just, this is what they do. There are those too, where this is what they kind of, this is what they seek out. It's confrontational. Those are the ones who also don't like to be addressed head on either. Yeah. So you're kind of winning on both audiences if you go to, like, if you're calling me out, I'm like, oh, well, okay, maybe I'm not my bark isn't that loud, and my bite certainly doesn't back it up.
Right. It's so true.
While we keep emphasizing that you shouldn't be selling, and that, this is more, you need to be educating, and there's brand awareness and things like that. But we understand that at the end of the day, there is an ROI to meet, and we do need to target people, and we need to make sure that this specific audience is like hearing this service. And there is a way to do that through social media as well, but you're killing two birds with one stone in the way of you're creating human content, and you're still able to target an audience based on, so many different factors.
Right. Yeah. There's like a twofold approach, right? I mean, you want the content to be feel as organic as possible, be humanized, but not all of those posts are going to spark some crazy engagement,
right?
Or going to make people click, right? And so, and then years after years of social media being around, the organic reach is just getting like smaller and smaller, unfortunately, to where businesses are almost forced to spend some money. But
and where was that email newsletter? Where was that memo? When were they going to tell us that they're just like slowly but surely going to take more things away?
No, like I said, it's ripping off the Band-Aid every time something's changed. It's good time.
Let's all work together.
It's a game. It's just a game.
I don't want to play.
But I think that the thing with finding the balance there is that you will need to spend some money. However, social media is still the cheapest place, the cheapest form of advertising. Even after all these years. Yes, maybe you're spending, maybe before you could do $1 a day and it can get somewhere, which that was amazing.
And I think there is still a space for that. Yes. And it depends, it kind of depends on how competitive it is and whether your industry, and I think there is a space for that. And it's kind of a luck of the draw. There are still some of those social media. We don't like to use the word viral. We want to emphasize that you won't go viral just because you want to so bad. It is truly a luck of the draw. Think of it as the lottery system.
Right.
So that's not the case, but there are some of those. Yeah. No reason, no how, no why.
Right.
It worked. Here's all this engagement.
Well, I mean, you've worked in traditional advertising in the sense that you know that people do spend a very high dollar, and how maybe those who were coming from a traditional over to social feel like they need to kind of spend that same sort of money.
Yes. Well, they think that it's big budget, really heavy. You got to put all this into it. And I think some of the ways, and I think there are traditional avenues that are kind of adapting to the times and making themselves competitive again, because that was what was so frustrating for me in a traditional space, was social media was trumping me every time. They were able to spend cents on the dollar and triple their business, and then we're able to track it. Right. I couldn't track your billboard. I couldn't track your print ad. But I knew that there was a space for it, but you had to make them believe more. And sometimes that's a harder investment to make. And it's just, again, adapting. Right. So, and I think there's a way to do it all. Again, I am an advocate of a media mix, but I think there needs to be a huge, heavy emphasis on the social aspect. Yeah. And that's where the social advertising tools are really your guaranteed surefire way to make sure that those audiences are seeing you. Right. And, throwing just a ton of money on one thing isn't going to really help you out. Well, the platforms don't like it because, again, you're thinking from a selling mindset and they can tell. And it's kind of one of those things that if you slap $500 on an ad for one day, they're like, well, no. Yeah. No. You're not going to actually get your stuff seen by that many people because it can't even spend that much money in one day. Whereas like if you add $5,000 more to traditional advertising, they're going to run your ad more and it will get seen by more people. Right. So it works a little differently in that sense. But if you have a $5,000 advertising budget on social, that's great. But you definitely want to be able to spread that out. Exactly. Don't use it all at one time. Budget friendly. Yeah. It wants you to kind of, share the dollars here and there. Not so much of a kind of like slap it on, I can walk away now. It's kind of goes back to even the engagement, not only so much of, your following and consumers. They want you almost engaging and interacting with the tool. They want more of your time, more of your eyes without telling you they want it. That's so much. And so if you're able to have someone kind of track those things in real time, or certainly keep an eye on it ongoing, the platforms recognize it with how much you're interacting with it, and they'll kind of give you that pass for more visibility and more participation, I guess. Yeah, for sure. Participation is key. Everybody likes somebody to participate.
That's
it's
so
a team
true.
effort. This is a team sport, social media. It is, as you know, a marathon, not a sprint. There's so much that goes into it, much training, rigorous. But it can be fun.
It can.
We have a lot of fun.
Yes.
We have a pretty good gig.
Yes. Okay, so I think that's all we have for today. I know. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you next time.